Hello and welcome to my video all about how to fill hollow glass baubles to make Christmas decorations. I will be presenting 6 ideas, and the first one is going to require hollow glass baubles, some moss, which I'll explain more in a minute, and some tweezers are also handy. I bought the glass baubles online in a set of 12, and the lids are easily removable with just metal prongs on the inside. The moss itself is labelled as natural Norwegian reindeer moss, which has been preserved. The first thing I'm doing here is just picking out the best pieces of the moss from the packet. I don't want the really dark green moss sections, so I'm just leaving those in the bag. Once I have sorted out the best bits of moss, I take the very small sections of it and put them into the bauble. The good thing about moss is, even though you compact it as you put it into the bauble, it springs back out again once it's in there. I use tweezers if any pieces get stuck, and I try and spread out the green and red so that they're evenly spaced. And once that's done, I just put the lid back on, and you've got a nice red and green, festive and unusual bauble. Idea number 2 involves taking book pages, punching out a load of shapes, in this case leaf shapes, and then putting those shapes into the baubles. You can use any punch you like. There are all kinds of Christmas themed and nature themed and all sorts of themes of punches, and you can mix and match if you like too. I bought a book from a charity shop that was very worn, and now I'm using those book pages for my craft projects. All you do is punch out the shapes all around the outside of the book page, and then rip the punched sections off and repeat along the edges so that you use as much of the book page as you possibly can. Once you've punched out enough shapes and you've filled the bauble enough, then you can add the lid. In hindsight, I would have done a contrasting colour of shape. So for instance, I would have punched out some leaf shapes in red, or maybe some nice stars or hearts in red, or just some other contrasting colour to the white. It's very easy to get creative with this idea. The third idea involves taking fake leaves, which are made from fabric and plastic stems, and using these inside the baubles. I'm also going to be using some silver and gold sequins which match these silver and gold leaves. I've already cut out and inserted a gold leaf into the bauble, and now I'm just going to cut out some more leaves and put them in too. Make sure that you cut off the top of the leaves and use those sections, because those sections don't have the stiff plastic running down the centre. So just take the tops of the leaves and insert them into the bauble using tweezers, and in this case I'm using a knitting needle too, just to manipulate the leaves and put them into the positions I want them in. And then I add the gold sequins and also the silver sequins to add a bit of sparkle. Once the baubles look how you want them to look, just replace the lid and they're finished. One top tip is to search for floristry supplies on big online marketplaces, and that's because they supply lots of faux leaves, berries and other imitation natural materials that will be perfect in baubles and will give you lots of ideas. Idea number 4 is the easiest of the lot. It's simply just putting pom-poms into the bauble. I managed to find a packet of pom-poms that had varying colours and sizes. I did find, however, that the 20mm pom-poms were extremely difficult to get into the bauble, so I would stick to about 10mm pom-poms in the future. I just want to add an obvious side note here. The baubles are glass, so don't be too rough with them and try and push things in that are obviously too big for it, because you may well crack the glass. Idea number 5 involves inserting a couple of butterfly motifs into the bauble. These are embroidered and they've got sequins on and they're very pretty, and they're also thin enough to roll up. You can find this kind of thing in the craft aisle, and they'll often be labelled as sew on or iron on patches. This particular one is labelled as a motif. You just have to make sure that it is small enough to fit into the bauble and also thin enough to roll up into a small enough tube to put into the bauble entrance. So you just roll up the motifs or patches, insert into the bauble. I used tweezers to help me with this, and also a knitting needle to manipulate the butterflies into place. You'll also notice that I added some matching blue sequins just to add a little more sparkle. Once you're happy with the placement of the motifs, just add the lid back on and you've got your butterfly bauble. Idea number 6, and the last idea, involves more floristry supplies, this time faux berries. These have wire stems and they have plastic and foam berries. I simply cut off all the small bunches of berries that will be able to fit into the entrance of the bauble, and then I carefully squeeze them into the bauble. They were a bit of a tight fit, but because they're foam they do squash down a little bit. If I did this again, I would definitely buy berries that had single berries on each stem, so they didn't have bunches of berries. I think I made life harder for myself doing bunches of berries, but if you can find single stem berries, that would be perfect. Or even better than that, berries that don't have stems at all. To finish off the bauble, I added a little bit of moss and also an artificial leaf just to add a bit of greenery within the berries. And there you go, there's one berry bauble finished. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and I hope it's given you inspiration to make your own. Thanks very much for watching.